We begin with Republicans rallying around former President Donald Trump and going after his possible pending indictment as politically motivated, un-American, and another partisan attempt to try to bring him down. A Manhattan grand jury is hearing a case relating to a hush money payment made to adult film star Stormy Daniels in the run-up to the 2016 election. Today, they will hear from one final witness, Robert Costello, a one-time legal advisor to President Trump's former attorney, Michael Cohen. He's expected to rebut Cohen, who has been the prosecution's key witness against Trump. Isn't he kind of a known liar, Michael Cohen? Okay, just establishing that fact. The grand jury will then need to decide whether it will indict Trump, and that decision could happen as soon as tomorrow. Several legal experts are questioning the strength of this case, however. Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg is now looking to elevate the misdemeanor issue to a felony and make Trump the first former president in history to face criminal charges. And House Speaker Kevin McCarthy went after the case as partisan politics.
The last thing we want or have is somebody putting their thumb on the scale simply because they don't agree with somebody else's political view. That is what's wrong, and that's what infuriates people. And this will not hold up in court if this is what he wants to do. It doesn't matter what side of the issue you're on. It doesn't matter if this was President Trump or if this was a Democrat. It should be equal justice in America. And stop going after people because you have political differences. I see people all the time that I have political differences. I respect their opinion. I may disagree with it, but why would you ever try to use the law for it? It doesn't matter what side you're on. This is the type of thing America hates and divides us and is wrong.
So House Speaker Kevin McCarthy suggested that committees go for it that are applicable to see if there are any federal dollars. Congressman and also Chair of Judiciary Jim Jordan was on with me last hour. He and others sent a letter to demand an explanation on ongoing Trump accusations. Let's watch that real quick.
And we've sent this letter to Mr. Bragg saying we want to talk to you. We want to know what's going on here. We want to see the communications that have taken place between the Federal Justice Department and your district attorney's office there in Manhattan. Because understand, Harris, first they went after President Trump on Russia. Then it was a phone call with Zelensky. Then they wanted his tax returns. Then they go after his business records. Then they go after his children. And now it's some misdemeanor alleged bookkeeping error that they're going to. And this is from the prosecutor who initially didn't want to do this. In fact, he had people resign because he wasn't going to do this because no one else will bring this case.
All sorts of thoughts on the timing of this from the DA, Alvin Bragg, and all the crime that's playing out here, and the mayor who's trying to turn things around, and eventually the finger's going to point to Alvin Bragg and his soft on crime policies. But let's set aside what potentially could be personal and professional for him, and let's focus in on the case and where it is. What do you make of it?
Well, it's a trumped-up case. There's no chance that this is going to be successfully prosecuted, and this is just like I think the Democrats are miscalculating because this is just like the previous efforts to get Donald Trump. The Mueller probe, what happened when it turned out he didn't do it? His popularity went up. First impeachment after on Ukraine, popularity went up. So this is going to backfire on them. And also it's going to backfire on them in the sense that most Republicans, even Republicans who don't want Donald Trump to be the nominee in 2024, don't hate Donald Trump. They thought that he was a great president. They may not like how he behaved after the election. They may not like what happened on January 6th. They may think that he made himself toxic with swing voters, and so therefore he can't win. But they don't hate Donald Trump. And so what this is going to do is this going to cause all those voters to rally around Donald Trump and make it more likely that he's the nominee. And so and I think that may be what they want. Because if you look at the 2022 midterms, they spent tens of millions of dollars trying to get MAGA Trump-backed nominees elected because they thought they'd be easier to beat. And I think the Democrat media corporate complex thinks that once they miss the clicks, and two, they think that he might be easier to beat. And so they want him to be the nominee, and this helps.
Yeah, let's stick with the politics for just a second here. That's ridiculous thinking because Trump wasn't actually on the ballot. And he was the first to say that maybe some of those were not the best candidates. In fact, some of them he said that about pretty openly. But he's not those candidates. he's somebody who's fundraising right now.
He's fundraising, and to quote the Wall Street Journal editorial board here, they basically said this: Mr. Bragg may not understand the political forces he's unleashing. He might want to consult the satirical wisdom of the Babylon Bee headline on Twitter. Manhattan DA announces plan to get Trump elected in 2024, which is pretty funny and true, and well said by the editorial board. Look, this is a very profoundly troubling time in our country. Put whatever you feel about Trump, his tweets, his actions here, whatever you feel about Biden and the way he acts or how he is personally, and put it here. When you have a candidate for the president of the United States, in this case, a former president, who is being pursued with a novel legal theory, which I know Emily will likely get into, a 7-year-old charge, and they are targeting him. And as to quote Andy McCarthy, no one who is not named Trump would be charged with this. Yeah. We live in a really troubling time in this country where our republic looks like a banana republic, and that should concern everyone. Speaker McCarthy said it as best as I've heard it put. Politics aside, this is just simply wrong.
Yeah, but bananas are delicious.
They are.
This is actually
3-year-old
not
loves
delicious. Because this looks purposeful in terms of a shiny object. But tell me about the merits of this case, Emily. Is there anything here?
Right, so just to do the X's and O's for viewers, so this is stemming from, in the weeks leading up to the 2016 election, the $130,000 payment made by Michael Cohen, then President Trump's, or then candidate Trump's attorney, made to Stormy Daniels for an alleged affair that took place in 2006. Now, according to the state DA's office, according to Alvin Bragg, that resulted in a falsification of business records. Now, that's traditionally a misdemeanor here in the state of New York, but it's known as a wobbler, which means that it can be elevated to a felony if there was intent to commit another crime or to aid to conceal the commission thereof. Now here, likely what the DA will be arguing is that that led to campaign finance fraud, and that's why it can be elevated to a felony. But here's why that's important for a few reasons. Number one, the statute of limitations for falsifying business records here is just 2 years. So that SOL ran a long time ago. But if you elevate it to a felony, then that becomes a statute of limitations for 5 years. That has clearly given the DA, Alvin Bragg, this time to bring it. Now, another important thing to note for viewers is that, remember, per your point, Kayleigh, this was investigated for years, and it was declined to be prosecuted not only by the Department of Justice, but also the Federal Election Commission. It was also declined and dropped by Alvin Bragg himself in 2021. And guess who protested? The lead prosecutor of the case under Cyrus Vance, the prior DA. And he eventually wrote a book that just came out excoriating the DA, saying, how dare you not have prosecuted President Trump? There were clearly crimes that he committed. And reports were that the DA was really stung by that criticism. At the time, however, it was called apolitical justice, ironically. When he declined to prosecute the case, ended the investigation, people said, you know what, that's really fair. Because if you had pursued this, it would have been clearly political. So what's changed? No more witnesses, no new facts have come to light. The only new thing, the only intervening factor is that President Trump announced his candidacy for 2024. And so here we have a DA that has not only reduced 50% of the felonies in this town to misdemeanors. He also, prior to this, declined to prosecute this person, declined to even proceed with the investigation, has now resurrected the investigation. He potentially will bring charges if convicted in the grand jury, if they bring in an indictment, and has elevated it to a felony. So there's a few more things. Remember, white-collar crimes, about 38% of referred are actually prosecuted. So the numbers on its face are staggering. The infinitesimal chance that this would have been not only prosecuted, but a successful prosecution. And I'll just close by saying what President Trump's attorney has said, Susan Nichelas, who said, for the DA's office to charge former President Trump a victim of extortion with a crime because his then lawyer, Michael Cohen, a convicted liar, paid the extortionist would be unprecedented and outrageous selective prosecution. Because remember, Michael Cohen's convicted crimes included lying to Congress. So here the DA is saying we are basing this entire case on someone who lied 6 times regarding this same concept. It's troubling at a minimum.
Case dismissed.
Well, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, look, it's a perversion of resources, right? I mean, we hear people like Nancy Pelosi say that President Trump isn't above the law, but he's also not beneath it. And he's not beneath the equal application of the law. And if this was a random John Doe, do we think that this would have the Manhattan DA's attention? $130,000 payment to a porn star?
No.
No, it would not have his attention. That tells you everything you need to know about what's actually going on here and the political witch hunt that it is. And also, look, the left looks at Donald Trump as a trophy. But what are they willing to do to get that trophy? They have poured gasoline on the country and lit it on fire. Not a single Americans don't have trust in their government anymore, and they shouldn't. They've corrupted the Department of Justice and the FBI to try to get Trump. They've corrupted the rule of law as well. So you look at what they've left in the wake, and it's a country on fire.
So, Lisa, who steps up and puts this to rest? Is it going to be one of the Republican-led committees? I mean, how do you see this really playing out?
Well, I think what you're going to see is this is the precedent moving forward. And you're probably going to see Republican governors moving forward going after, their political opponents. And then we look like the banana republic that Kayleigh had mentioned when you were talking. And that's the direction that this puts us on. That's the path they put us on.
Yeah.
And it's sad. I mean, this is no longer America.
There's one more tumbler that has to fall, though, and that is a massive investigation going on right now in the Biden family. And with those dozen or so, per James Comer, head of oversight, it'll be really interesting to see how those business dealings in the millions play a part as China's leader just dropped in for some buddy time, quality time with Putin, a suspected war criminal.
Well,
I mean, there's a lot of backdrop
Harris,
going on.
Is this a distraction from some of that?
I called it a shiny object.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.